money's like a drug. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Then I need more. Oh, I need more. Now I need a lot more. Now I'm addicted and I'm unhappy. Once you have enough money, whatever that number is, more money doesn't make you happier. In office hours, my friend Dave Evans, students will come and say, I have a problem. Dave says, okay, tell me what your problem is. And they say, well, I'm struggling with this class, or I'm struggling with this thing, blah, 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 blah. And then he'll say, okay, that's good. And I say, okay, now, what's the real problem? 107 years old. So I think I can live to be 107. So I have a lot more books to write. Design thinking is not a therapy, and it's not a magic wand. We don't tell you what to do. We unlock the designer, and the designer's in you. It's not me. I don't design your life. I show you how you can do it.
This is Comedy Featuring. My name is Vic, and welcome to the show. In 2016, Bill Burnett's first groundbreaking book, Designing Your Life, started helping people all around the world transform their lives by giving them practical tools, fresh perspective, and roadmap for crafting lives that resonate with their true self, and giving them joy and a sense of fulfillment. And in 2020, COVID-19 hit the world so hard. And at the same time, Bill Burnett's second book, Designing Your Work Life, also hit the store. And some might say that the book couldn't have come out at a better time because obviously that was exactly the time when the work life of everybody, virtually everybody in the world, changed forever. We were forced to rethink everything to cope with all the new normals and the changes that would change our lives forever. So in today's situation, with a lot of people still wandering around with no maps, these books are still helping people and guiding us through the uncertain, unpredictable, complex world. So today, I'm so excited and honored to have this opportunity to talk with the author of Designing Your Life and Designing Your Work Life, Mr. Bill Burnett. Welcome to the Standard Candy, and thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And a quick shout out to my partner, Dave Evans, who co-writes the books with me. I want to make sure everybody knows that he's a big contributor.
Mm-hmm. Right. So actually, first of all, this is kind of beyond my wildest dream that I get to tell you this in person. Thank you so much for writing these two books. They're great, and I love it.
Oh, well, good. Have you and have you been able to do some of the exercises and things?
Yeah.
And like you said, I think we tried to make it practical and useful for people. Not everybody thinks of themselves as being creative, but we know everybody has some creativity inside them, and hopefully the book helps them develop that creative confidence.
Yeah, you kind of change the definition of designer because before you have to have a job as a designer to be be able to design but now everybody can be a designer too, and for your own life.
Yeah, well, when at Stanford, we have a program in design, and that's where I teach. That's where we invented the class back in 2007. But our idea of designer isn't just like, you design interiors or you design products. You can use our thing, design thinking, you can use it to design a strategy or a business. Mm-hmm. And then when Dave and I got together in 2007, we said, well, of course, people's lives you can design a life because designers invent something new every time they do something, like you in the future, that's a new thing. Mm-hmm. And so you need design tools and design the mindsets of a designer to imagine your future, because you can't get any data about the future, right? So you have to come up with a different strategy.
Sure, yeah. And now this trip of yours, this is not your first trip to Thailand, of course. You've been here before.
Yeah.
But this time around, you're here for a very special event, aren't you?
Yeah. We're running a bunch of events we're having a little mini workshop, I think, on the 13th. And then on Saturday, we're running a big workshop, an all-day-long workshop to design your life for people who want to really learn the tools firsthand. And we do a bunch of things around your energy and your balance to try to find a true path. Mm-hmm. And then we do our biggest thing is we do what we call 3 odysseys, 3 completely different views of the next 5 years of your life to sort of brainstorm what's possible. A lot of people, they're stuck. what we find is a lot of people are stuck because they're just trying to think of one thing, or they think, oh, maybe it's too late for me, to come up with a new thing. And we want to get people unstuck and teach them the mindsets that designers use to invent new things. And then they can experience that all day on Saturday. And we're doing a big program. We can talk, we can figure out how to let people know where that is as we go.
Yeah, I think it revolves around the word redefine and redesign.
Yeah.
So it's not just designing, but redesigning.
Sure, because everybody starts with something, right? There's a big sign over our studio at Stanford for the graduate students, the studio where they do their design work, and it says, "You are here," which is also on the cover. If you take the cover off of the book, right embossed in the front page of the book is "You are here," because everybody starts from right here in reality. And maybe you have a job and you don't like it, or maybe you're looking for a job and you're not sure what to do, or maybe you're just graduating, from the university, or you're in your mid, 20s or 30s, and you're like, I don't know, this isn't really working. So we got to start from where you are, and then design always says, well, the next design should be better, right?
Yeah.
I was at Apple for 7 years, and we were doing the new laptops. And we had to figure out what a laptop was. And I wasn't there when they were doing the iPhones, but the new iPhone is coming out, right? The new iPhone 15, I think.
Yeah.
So that will be hopefully better than the last one.
Sure.
So when we do life design, we say, first we start with where are you at? You are here. How do we really, really kind of grasp what your current situation is? And then we give you tools to design a better situation. And they're easy. We always say, set the bar low, make small changes. Don't have to make a big change. Make small changes, and then each design is a little better. And pretty soon you find yourself really starting to enjoy both your life and your job. Because it's not just about jobs, right? Jobs are important. We spend most of our life at work. But if we don't have a good life with balance and energy, how can we enjoy our job?
True.
Right? So we start with life, then job, and then design.
Right.
And every design is a little better than the last one.
Yeah. Coming up with better and better version of yourself and your life.
Yeah.
So we'll be specifically or focusing on the work life, mainly for these workshops.
Well, we will talk a lot about work because, like I say, most people spend, all day, and they work very hard at the office. But if you just talk about work, then you miss the bigger thing, right? Because, there's a lot of studies now that say happiness doesn't come specifically from work. It comes from your life, your relationships, particularly relationships.
Yeah.
And it comes from your community. How are you in your community of other people with friendships? I'll tell you a quick story. So my grandparents on my mother's side were immigrants from Germany. So back in 1933, my grandfather got the family out of Germany because in 1933, if you know your history, that was when Hitler was elected to be the chancellor. And he didn't like that. He wanted his family to be somewhere safe. So he got them to California. And he had no education. He didn't speak any English. So he took any job. Terrible jobs, 50 cents a day to, shovel garbage. My grandmother didn't speak any English, but she took in laundry and did laundry for the rich ladies so that they could support the family. So he didn't like his job. His job was just for money. But he had a good life because he had a strong community, he had a church, and he was a religious man, and he had the other Germans who were there, also immigrants. And so his community, his church, and things were what made his life rich. His job was just for money, but the purpose was, get the family safe, send the kids to school, get them an education that he never had. His children went to the community college. My mother sent me to Stanford, and my daughter is getting her PhD in cancer science and stem cell science from UCSF. So American story, immigrants, 3 generations now, very educated. So you don't have to have you might get meaning and purpose from your job, but the research says it's more likely to come from your community and your friendships and other things. So we're going to focus on that too. How do we find more community. You know, when we do our research, because design starts with empathy, right? So we have to talk to people. This is the loneliest generation. Have you seen the research? Lonely, anxious, worried about their futures. They don't feel like they have community, too much social media, not enough talking to people. And so we want to help people find their true path, but also to find, you know, this joy and community again.
And even though they're not from the young generation, even some people from older generation could experience the same thing too, because we are faced with the same problem nowadays: social media, pandemic, and what have you.
Yeah, the pandemic made everybody feel kind of isolated and lonely.
Yeah.
And it's very important. Like we're going to start a new workshop for people who are thinking about retiring or have already retired.
Yeah.
Because the research there is very clear. If you retire and you kind of shrink back from the world and you become isolated from the world, it accelerates your physical decline. It will accelerate dementia or your mental decline. So you have to stay connected and you have to have a purpose. And designing your life is all about finding that purpose. So I think even for people in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and people are going to live longer now, right? Because we have the new longevity, and you want to live healthier.
Right.
And so we know what it takes to be healthy. And again, it has to do with this connection and community and continuing to, because social interactions keeps our brain alive, right? So it's so important for everybody at every age.
Yeah, you just brought up a very interesting point that longevity. So statistically, a lot of people might looking at their like being 100 years old.
Yeah.
So that's very possible now. Yeah. So we need to rethink our redesigning also of our lives.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, the research is really clear, particularly my young students who are just graduating now, 2022, 23.
Yeah.
The likelihood is they will live to be 100, not only live to be 100, a healthy 100, right? So imagine if you had a healthy and productive 90 or 95 years of your life. You can't just retire.
Yeah.
What is that? Retire is like to move. Retire means to move away from, to move back from. No, they're going to live healthy, productive lives 20 or 30 or 40 years after they stop working. So we have to reframe and redesign what this retirement thing means, because when you're at that age, you have so much knowledge and so much experience that you can give back to other people. I don't know what it's like in Thailand, but I think in the U.S. we've lost a little bit of respect for the older people. It used to be the older people were the wise people in the village, right?
Yeah.
And everybody spoke to them first to ask questions. And now the modern generation, they just think they know everything. But I think we have to go back to thinking about, well, what is the wisdom you've gained in 60 or 70 years? And how can we share that back? And that gives your life meaning and purpose.
True. And that would mean having to live with a lot more generations than ever before. Because a lot of people would live to be 100 years old, and then will have a situation where 100 years old would have a conversation with like a 15-year-old, and
wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
I tell you, I have on my mother's side of the family from Germany, very strong genes, I think. I have a great aunt, my mother's aunt, who is 107 this year, still sharp. Moves a little more slowly, with a walker, but still sharp. And one of the things I think is she crochets. She makes these knitted things.
Right.
And a long time ago, she decided to make blankets for people who were poor and had no. So she works with a charity, and she makes a blanket. She knits a blanket. Maybe one time a week, she can make a whole blanket. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then she gives it to charity, and she makes little hats for kids that need hats who are poor. And this keeps her alive. Plus, knitting is like mathematics. You have to remember the pattern: 1, 2, 1, 2, 6, 3, 4, 3, 4. And so I think that's what keeps her brain so active. 107 years old. So I think I can live to be 107. So I have a lot more books to write.
I was going to ask you about that too. So is there going to be a third book from this series or different series?
No, there's absolutely going to be a third book. And I was just texting my partner, Dave Evans, about this. We think the next book, again, we're talking to people and finding out, what do you need? What do people need? Well, They're lonely and they're anxious. They don't feel like they have a good community anymore. And they're looking for more, strength in relationships, which is common across the board. And, we realized in our very first book, Designing Your Life, because we had been working with students, we never talked about relationships, marriage, community, children, the things that are really truly give life, bigger meaning. And we didn't talk about spirituality in any way. Now, Dave is a very well-known leader in the Christian community in the U.S. And I am not well known because I'm an atheist and I don't believe in God. But it's interesting. So someone who believes very much in Christianity and someone who doesn't believe in God are the best partners. And so we also want to talk about, well, everybody needs a bigger picture. My bigger picture is more like science and more of a rational picture, and his picture is a spiritual picture. So we want to talk about these things because I think it will help give people tools to explore how do you create community? How do you find relationships? How do you explain the bigger picture? You can have a spiritual explanation, a scientific explanation, but you have to have something. Otherwise, like you said in the beginning, you're just wandering around with no map.
Yeah.
So the book is going to be, instead of just life, it's going to be life, communities, relationships, spirituality. It's going to be a bigger picture than the first book. Wow. I think it'll be very exciting. I'm really excited about the chapters I'm writing.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to get my hands on that book. Designing your love life, probably. Designing your spiritual life or longer life.
It's
all the possibilities there.
Yeah, interesting. We're struggling for a title, but yeah, that's exactly right. How do you do it?
Yeah. All right, so what do you think people nowadays need the most help about?
Well, I think because of COVID, right, everything has been sort of thrown up in the air, and we're still trying to understand how does work, fit in. Are we going to be remote working back in the office? Hybrid working is probably the thing that'll end up being the best balance. So I think there's a lot of things still churning around in the life of work, and how do I fit work into my life? We did a lot of research because we reissued the second book to add in chapters about COVID. We did a lot of research, and one of my favorite stories is there was a woman. She said, now we're remote working, and my boss always has this long, boring 2-hour staff meeting where people just talk and nothing happens. And so she said, so what I do is when we have the staff meeting, I say, I don't have good internet today. I'm going to turn off my camera, but I can hear you.
Okay.
And I'll speak when it's my turn. And then she folds her laundry.
So I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, the meeting is so boring that you can get something else done while you're doing it. So I think people have learned that you can use hybrid work very efficiently. I think that will be one of the things that sort of settles down. But also, we had in the United States what we called the Great Resignation. 20 million people quit in 2021, and another 40 million people quit in 2021, another 20 million quit in 2022, 2023, lots of job changing and stuff. Because people decided, well, look, if I'm going to work this hard, I want something that's more meaningful. I don't want to just work in this terrible job. And so we have, in the second book, we had this chapter about don't resign, redesign. Redesign the job before you quit, if you can. And then if you quit, quit smart so that you can find your new community, because it's about creating, your professional community. So I think there's going to be more job changing. I just came from a week in China where they have the lying down movement, where the young workers are just not working hard. And they have the lying flat movement, where all the graduates, instead of taking pictures of graduation, throwing their hats in the air, really smiling, they all laid on the ground like they were dead.
Wow.
And everybody took pictures. The graduation pictures is lying down. So I think there's a lot of economic uncertainty. So people are really having to think hard about how can I design a good life and a job with a job in it. And our tools are very focused on that. How to redesign your job, how to quit well, how to find a better job, but also how to fit that into a life that has a path. So, from the very first book, we do the life view and the work view, and that's your compass, right? If you have your compass, you have a sense of what's your true path. And then you have 3 options to figure out which, because you can't just have one. too much change. You need more than one option. And so I think those tools are still useful, and I think people are finding them to be even better in times of great disruption.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just COVID. We have climate change. Look at the floods in Hong Kong and Shanghai and Shenzhen just last week. Huge floods. They had more rain in one day than they've ever had in a year. I go to Hong Kong all the time. You know, there's 6 feet of water in the street.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right.
So you have climate change. You have economic, chaos and disruption. You have social chaos and disruption. You need a resilient strategy, which is, I think, it's got to be a design strategy. Otherwise, if you try to make a plan, the plan will be, will break in 6 months.
Yeah, I think we are looking at new and different and even more severe gravity problems.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
New
Yeah,
sets
yeah.
of problems that we
Yeah.
haven't encountered before, and we need to be able to cope with that.
Yeah, exactly. So gravity problems, just for people listeners, it's something that you can't change. Like you can't change gravity. You're going to fall down. You will fall down. There's something you can do. But there's a lot of gravity problems that are also things that it just would be too hard to change. So you may not decide to, the only thing you can do with the gravity problem is accept it. Hey, the economy is going to be difficult for in a couple of years, and then reframe. All right, so I need another strategy. Maybe I need a side job plus a main job to make sure I have, good security. And so if you can accept the gravity problem, there's nothing I can do to change I can't change the economy. I can't change the government. I can't change, whatever the situation is. So again, you are here. So accept it, reframe. Well, what do I have control over? How can I go forward and change the risk, and then design something, a prototype, right? And that's how you stay resilient, even when everything's changing. Because you're probably going to have to change strategies 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. I think design thinking could be applicable to practically like everybody or all the problems. But can you help me fill in the blank here that design thinking or designing your life mindset will not work for you if.
Yes, and this is a really good question. When I was in China, I did a talk, and someone raised her hand, and she was a psychologist. She was a therapist, and she said, "Can design thinking work with people who are having, serious mental, depression or mental?" I said, "No, design thinking is not a therapy, okay, and it's not a magic wand." I said, if you are, in fact, in our book we talked about burnout, if your job. And we used the Mayo Clinic checklist for burnout because we said, look, burnout is a medical problem. It's not a mental problem. You're not tough enough. Burnout is a medical problem. If you check 4 of the 10 boxes on this list, go see a doctor. Because if you are severely depressed, clinically anxious, or clinically ill, you have a mental illness, that needs to be dealt with a professional, counselor, therapist, doctor. Maybe you need therapy. Maybe you need some, medication to help your brain get more stable. If you have ADHD, or something like that, then you can't think your way out of a mental health problem. So please, my message is, if you really feel like you're burned out, or you feel like you've been depressed for a very long time and you just can't get a handle on it, please go see, a very talented mental health professional. Because in order to think like a designer, you have to have a healthy brain. You have to be ready to try things, right? And if depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder is affecting you, please go, find help. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a designer. I can't help you with that.
So what else do we have to be ready with in order to use the design thinking method like more efficiently?
Yeah. Well, design thinking, when I teach design thinking to my young design students at Stanford, and we're talking about designing a better camera, a better microphone, a better chair, a better, website, then we say you start with empathy, redefine the problem, come up with lots of ideas, prototype, and test. But in designing your life, there's one step before you start, and that's the step we call accept. So a lot of times people have problems that they complain about. They complain about their job, or they complain about their partner, or they complain about something. But they aren't ready to make a change. And probably not you, because you're very smart, together guy. But I bet you have a friend who just complains all the time and just likes to complain, right? They don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They like their problem. They get a lot of attention because of their problem.
That's their content.
That's their thing. Yeah. So you have to move from that to like, all right, wait a minute. I really want to change something, even if it's a small thing. I just want to change. I feel so tired at the end of every week. I want to change my energy. I want to change the balance in my life. So if you can accept that you want to change something, that's the starting point. And sometimes the change is hard because we get in grooves and we get in patterns and it's hard to change a habit. But we know the science of behavior change, and we know it's in small increments. So we have that in the book, is about how do you do it in very small increments. There's other books like Tiny Habits or Atomic Habits that are really good books for behavior change. They break down the science of how to change a bad habit or to start a new good habit. But it won't start unless you're ready. And so
and want to change.
Yeah, want to change. People have to have enough energy to want to change, and they have to make the decision that they will try something. And you may not be successful the first time. I'm not successful. I try lots of things. It takes me 2 or 3 or 4 tries before I can find the right path. So you have to stay open, and you have to let go of your problem and want to change it. If you can do that, I guarantee you, once you start thinking like a mindset, starting with curiosity, starting with radical collaboration, because the answer's in the world. There's all these people in the world who can help you. If you reframe the problem, because you're probably working on the wrong problem, like step back. What's the real problem, right? Dave has a favorite in office hours. My friend Dave Evans. Students will come and say, "I have a problem." Dave says, "Okay, tell me what your problem is." And they say, "Well, I'm struggling with this class, or I'm struggling with this thing, blah 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 blah." And then he'll say, "Okay, that's good." And I say, "Okay, now, what's the real problem?" Because the first thing you say is just, the outward-facing thing.
Yeah.
Inside, something else is going on. It's not that you're having trouble with this class. It's that you don't want to be an engineer, but your parents want you to be an engineer. So you're doing what your parents want. And so your struggle is, this is not my path. Right. This is my parents' path. So let's not talk about how to get a better grade in engineering. Let's talk about how you're going to tell your parents you don't want to be an engineer, right? So there's always something behind the story, and that's the reframe. So boy, these, and when I talk to people who've read the book, they say, I didn't know I could reframe problems. I didn't know you could just, I'm not stuck with a bad problem.
Yeah.
I could, if I think about it and I go inside and I think, well, wait a minute, where's this problem really coming from? I can find a better problem. And then my solutions are so much, I have so much more solution space. There's more solutions. Because now I'm not working on a symptom. I'm working on the real thing. And so that's another thing that builds people's confidence. And they go, I think I'm on my true path. I don't know exactly where I'm going, because there's no end to the true path. It's a continuous, your whole life. But I feel like I'm on the right path. Whereas before, I didn't even know where I was going. Or I was going down where my parents wanted me to go, or where my friends told me I should go. But it never felt right to me.
So wayfinding, right?
It's wayfinding, exactly, yeah. Because, again, wayfinding is a little bit of a funny term, but if you know where you're going, I want to go from here to back to my hotel, I just put it in the GPS and it gives me a path, right?
Yeah.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm navigating to that place.
Yeah, and you have the tool to help you?
I have that tool to help me. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But if I'm not sure where I'm going, but I need to make some progress, I use a technique called wayfinding, which is where, okay, where's the next step along the way where I could learn new things, run a prototype, get to that new place. From there, you are here now, you're in a new place. Where can I go from here? And what are 3 possibilities from each point? And then it looks like a crazy path. It looks like I went here, then I went here, then I went here, then I went here, then I backed up, then I went over here, then I went over here. Yeah. But actually, from here to here, that's the straightest line. Because on each of the different pivots, you had learned a new thing and were moving in a new direction based on what you could only have learned if you'd come from the other place.
Yeah.
So even though it looks like a crazy path, it is the straightest line
Right.
from here to your new future.
Yeah.
Because you had to discover along the way.
So don't be afraid of detours.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody. I talk to lots and lots of people who've had very, very, important careers, famous careers, make a lot of money, whatever. And I say, tell me the truth. When you were 18, did you know you were going to end up here? And they say, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I was 25. When I was 25, I was doing investment banking, and I hated it. Because everybody told me investment banking, I should be an investment banker. I hated it, and then I pivoted, and then I became a writer, and then, and then I became a blogger, which wasn't even when I was in college. There wasn't even a thing called a blogger. There was no, there were no blogs. There were no, podcasts. And now I'm a host of this successful thing, and blah blah blah. And it's like I had no idea. When I not only did I had no idea when I was in college or when I was 22. Where I would end up, but the thing I ended up in didn't even exist when I was in college.
Right.
And now, with AI, it's kind of already here, ChatGPT and all these things. Like, all the things that you thought you might want to do might not even exist, in 10 years or 5 years. And the things that'll be the most interesting to do haven't probably even been invented yet. Now, I think that's exciting.
I know, me too. I mean, you don't even know where you want to go, but you're on your way.
You're on your way, and you're following all this new stuff that's happening all around you, and you're finding out, well, where can I make a country? Like, so when I teach designers to design a new camera, I say, well, first let's talk to people who use cameras and we'll get empathy for them, empathy for the user. But in the case of life design, first I have to have the empathy for myself. What do I like? What do I really enjoy? What do I know about myself that's true? And just because I like it doesn't mean the world's going to let me do it. I like poetry, but I don't think there's a lot of rich poets in the world. So, the richest poets in the world, they're called rappers. They're Jay-Z, they're Dr. Dre. They're poets, but they do it in a different way.
Of course, yeah.
Sure. But so if I know a little bit about myself, and then what does the world need? What does the world need? How can I give the world something of my own skills and talents? That the world will actually need and value, and maybe it's because it has impact. I'm working for a nonprofit. I'm helping kids learn to read, or maybe the impact will be money or whatever. But whatever it is, if I'm following what the world needs, and all this new stuff is coming, I have 100 opportunities in front of me, not one.
Yeah,
and that is exciting to me. Versus I'll get one job, stay in one thing for the rest of my life, and then when I'm 60, I'll retire, and then I won't know what to do because I've never had any other plan. And even that won't work because the bank will lay you off, or the firm will lay you off, or they'll go out of business, or their business will change and they won't need your skills anymore. So I don't think you can have just one plan.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
Right. It just reminded me of the concept of ikigai, right? Like what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you have passion for, and what you can make money from. So if you can combine all those, you would have like several plans. It doesn't have to be like one thing that you have to like set your eye on.
Exactly, and you're more resilient if you have more than one plan, right? Because no matter what changes, you still have a way to move forward. And we have another tool in the second book. We call it the maker mix, right? Because this is a maker economy. Everybody's a maker. So the people naturally they focus on making enough money so they can have what they need. So, safety, security, things like that. But you make more than just money in the world, right? So we say don't just break it down to money. There's more than that. So say you want to have also some impact. Well, you can have impact without making money. You can, like I say, you can work for after work. You can work for a group that helps kids to learn to read, or that, gets women out of sex trafficking, or whatever you want. Whatever you think is important, you can have impact. It doesn't have to make money. And then everybody wants to be a little more creative, so you need to figure out, well, where is your creative expression going to be? So you have a mix of money, impact, and expression. And when you step back and reframe. Your total output isn't just I work for money. I also make impact. I also I have some kind of creative expression. And I don't do my creative expression on the market's terms, and I don't do my impact on the creative terms. I do them for different reasons, for different things. So now I have a portfolio of 3 things I make, and we call it mixing your life song. It's like I got a slider for each one.
Yeah.
And you know when you're mixing a song, or you're mixing the video track for this or the soundtrack for this, you don't push all the things to maximum,
right?
Because then the bass would be too loud, everything would be too loud, the drums would be too loud. So you have to, how much money, how much impact, and how much expression do I want in my life song?
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, this is where I am, and where would I like to be in 6 months? Well, I'd like to have a little more impact. Okay, how could we do that? Or I'd like to have a little more expression.
Yeah.
How can we do that? Or maybe I'd like to have a little more money. Be careful about the money thing, because there's psychology, for the 30 years has studied the relationship between money and happiness. And it's absolutely clear that once you have enough money, and in different places, it's expensive to live in Bangkok, it's cheaper to live in, somewhere else. But once you have enough money, whatever that number is, more money doesn't make you happier. So in the U.S., I think the number's like, let's call it $100,000 for U.S. If you make $100,000, you have enough money to support yourself. Maybe if you have children and family, you need a little bit more. But then you have $200,000, and you're not happier. And then you have $300,000. You're not happier. You have more money, more things, but you're not happier. Let's say you end up having $1 million. I have some students who started companies, and now they have $1 billion. There's a decrease in happiness when you get way past what you need. Because now the money is a burden. Now the money is, doesn't bring you, there's no difference in your personal freedom between 100 million and $1 billion. You just have more money.
Yeah.
And actually, it's more dangerous. One of my friends is the entrepreneur who started Roblox, the sort of online platform for kids.
Yeah.
And it's worth, many billions of dollars because they went public, and I think it's a great product. He's a fantastic guy, but now he has to have bodyguards to watch his house when he travels because his board of directors wants to make sure that he's secure. And so that's that's a decrease in your quality of life, right? They have to walk, drive around with guys,
right,
protecting you. So be careful of the money thing. Chasing too much money is proven to make people unhappy.
Yeah, and I think it's tricky to know how much is enough for you, right? So it's pretty hard to know that line or that.
But yeah, that's why I say, well, don't just evaluate money. How about your impact? Maybe your job has a lot of impact. That's great. Maybe not. Maybe you have to find impact. You have to do something else.
Right.
And what do you do for your creativity? Because every human is creative. If you don't do it, it gets stuck inside, and it'll make you unhappy.
Yeah.
But seriously, look at the money thing. Because money, once you like you say, how much is enough? Well, I got a little bit more. That felt good. Oh, and then 6 months later, I don't even notice. So I get a little bit more, and that felt good. And then 6 months later, I'm back where I started. Money's it's like the drug. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Then I need more. Oh, I need more. Now I need a lot more.
Yeah.
Oh, I need a lot more. And now I'm addicted and I'm unhappy. But I need more. So money works exactly that way. The psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill, the pleasure treadmill. Once you're on the pleasure treadmill, you always need a bigger hit to get the same high. So be careful. Money's exactly like that. And if you think about it, most of us, not everybody, because if the economy's bad, and if you lose a job, it's bad. So I'm not saying you have to pay attention to money. It's important. But once you get to a certain place where there's enough security, enough for your family, enough maybe to support your parents or whatever, really more. If you enjoy working, and let's say you're an entrepreneur. My friend Dave Mizuki, who started Roblox, he didn't do it to make money. He just had this idea about kids playing and creating their own games, and he made this amazing platform. And then, it became very successful. But he didn't do it to make money. He did it because he had this creative idea.
So it was not his initial aim.
No, that wasn't his game. He didn't need more money. He'd already done 2 other companies. He was fine. So I think when I meet young entrepreneurs at Stanford, and my students want to start companies, I say, if you're doing this for money or fame, you're going to fail. because that's not going to sustain you.
Yeah.
You have to believe your idea is going to have some kind of positive impact in the world. Otherwise, you know, forget it, because by the way, 9 out of 10 startups fail anyway,
Yeah.
no matter how hard you try. So if you think you're going to do this for money and fame, you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yeah, so it's not one or the other, but I really like how you put it, like put everything on the sliders and on the dashboard,
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
your hands on
Mix a
on
song.
these,
Yeah, mix a great song.
sliders, and just
And you know, it changes. I did 2 startups when I was young in my 20s. I did one, which was a toy company, which was successful. We sold it to a bigger toy company. I did another one, which was totally unsuccessful, and we just crashed and burned it. But when I got married and started having children, I realized, well, this isn't a good season in my life for startups. I need to spend more time with family and kids. So that season was that. Now my children are all gone. They're all, you know, have great jobs, and they're all. I have my first 2 grandchildren. My daughter just had a little baby girl 4 weeks ago. So beautiful. But now I'm in a season of my life where I don't have to worry about my children, and my family's, you know, secure. Everything is good. So now I'm just working for impact. This is all writing the books, coming here, running workshops. It's just to help people, you know, get a life they deserve. I'm not working for money at all.
Yeah.
In fact, we just started an institute in Singapore to help, you know, get these ideas everywhere in Asia. And it's a nonprofit. It's not going to make any money at all.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. What is going on in Singapore? That's this institute.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love coming to Asia. I love Thailand and Singapore and Hong Kong and China. And I haven't been to Korea that much, but I've been to Japan a lot. And so I really love this part of the world. And then we also had done a workshop with the government in Singapore. They called Stanford and said, could you do a workshop? So my lab did a workshop with the group in Singapore. And there was about 40 different thought leaders in this workshop, from the government, from industry, from companies that want to have better, you know, employee programs. And so they were very excited. When they had the chance for 4 days of, you know, really getting deep into the material. So a couple of universities contacted us, a couple of companies contacted us, and I said, wait a minute, this is a big excitement, but I can't do one project for everybody. So I came to Singapore last year, and I said, well, what if we put together a center here or something like that? And that evolved into the Designing Your Life Institute of Singapore. It's a nonprofit. We launched it in June of this year, in a big article in the Straits Times about us, and both the Singapore government and lots of organizations in Singapore really support this, because, you know, Singapore is really a unique place, right? I'm older than Singapore. Singapore started in 1963. I was born before 1963. I won't tell you how old I am. So it's a young country, but the first generation was just like, how do we build something, you know, out of nothing? It's a fishing village, basically. And they built a modern city. And then the second generation, you know, took Singapore to the top level economically, and transportation, logistics, you know, biotechnology, you name it. They're top in many, many fields. And the third generation is like, okay, well, we've got this whole thing running, but now we need more. And before it was just like, work hard, let's make a nation. And I think the third generation is saying, okay, we got a nation. Now, what is it for? Like, what's the bigger meaning? And it's not that the younger generation is privileged. I mean, they didn't grow up in poverty. They grew up with relative wealth. But they're also thinking, like, all of this new generation is thinking, okay, well, we can't, you know, we've got climate change and environment and other things to worry about. We can't just be maximizing money all the time. We got to maximize, you know, quality of the environment, quality of life. And so it's a perfect time in Singapore, because the younger generation are asking these questions. The older generation who's retired, and Singapore has the highest longevity, I think, of anyone in Asia. 83, 84, 85 years old. Women live to, you know, an average of 89. And they live very healthy lives, and the government is really focused on health and wellness now. So they said, yeah, let's do Designing Your Life, because it both gives us a meaning and purpose. It works for older people and younger people, and then it's all about asking the question of, well, what's more than just, you know, safety, security, money, you know? Okay, we built a nation. Also, they realize, you know, with AI and everything else, the Singapore miracle really was all planned. And they planned and they replanned and they planned and they replanned. I would argue they used a lot of design thinking and a lot of prototyping. but they've kind of gotten into a place where they're sort of stuck with their planning, and they know that planning isn't going to be very, very powerful going forward because things are changing too quickly. So they really need everybody in Singapore to start thinking more creatively, because they can't just wait for the government to tell them what to do.
Right.
And so, one, I think it was a big reaction to our first workshop, and two, we've just met so many people there who want to work with us that we created an institute. We've put all our IP in the institute there from the books and things. And when I leave Thailand, I'm going to go there. I'm going to run a workshop for, we call it Career 1.0, for 20-somethings who want to, launch their career with meaning and purpose. We've got a mid-career workshop we're going to do for people in their 30s and 40s who want to maybe pivot or do something new. And we just announced a workshop for the new longevity. We're going to work with older people to see if we can figure out, what are their needs and what do they want to do. And whenever we do something in a new country, like we do in the workshops in Thailand, we're very, very cautious. We want to make sure we put it in the context of the culture, of the local culture. I don't just bring ideas over from California and try to make you do them. So we change all the workshops. We change the stuff to make sure we're really addressing what the local culture's issues are. So I'm really excited. So it's going to be a fun thing, and I've arranged my schedule at Stanford so that I'm 6 months full-time teaching from January to June. Teach a lot of classes, design classes, designing your life classes, and then from June to December I can travel and do this work outside of the university. So the institute's going to be a big project.
Right.
But we have Modular Consulting is the group here that's putting on the workshop with us, and they've got coaches and people who can help you keep going. So it's a way to get started. The number one thing people say when they come out of the workshop is, I used to be stuck, and now I don't feel stuck anymore. I got lots of ideas about what I could do next.
That's amazing. Just to help people unlock something.
It's exactly that. It's getting rid of that stuck feeling, which of course keeps us. I mean, I get stuck all the time too. I get stuck on my problems. I can't see my way through. I have to stop and think about it and brainstorm. But feeling stuck and then feeling like, there's nothing I can do. Feeling like you just have no power in your life. That's a terrible feeling, and I want to help people, reframe that, get rid of that feeling, and recognize. Again, we don't tell you what to do, but we unlock the designer, and the designer's in you. It's not me. I don't design your life. I show you how you can do it. And when you feel that powerful feeling of like, I'm not stuck anymore, I've got at least 3 ideas, maybe 5 ideas of what I could do next. I have a method for trying them called prototyping, which is low risk. I'm not going to like quit my job and go all in on anything crazy. I'm just going to try some simple experiments and see what works. And then I'm going to listen to my heart. I got my compass now. I'm listening to my heart. Is this on my path or not? Tried something, didn't work. Okay, fine. Don't have to worry about it. Try something else. Oh, this is interesting. I want to do more.
Right.
Following my curiosity, collaborating with people in the world. People don't realize this, but people are incredibly kind. And if you just ask for help, like I'm trying to find my direction, can I talk to you a little bit? People say, sure.
Yeah.
Because if I just want to hear your story, I want to hear your story. How did you end up doing this kind of work?
Yeah.
People are happy to tell their story and happy to give you a little direction. You might try this, you might try that. Because it's free. And everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And everybody has something to offer. But we don't ask sometimes.
I think that's a problem for a lot of people too, because they're not used to asking for help. But I agree with you. You'll be surprised how kind people could be and how much help you could get by just asking, right?
Yeah, and it's not like saying, I need a job. Do you have a job? I mean, like that's not, right. I never advise that. I mean, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But if I say, hey, I looked you up, I saw a YouTube video or a TikTok video, you seem really interesting. Could I buy you a cup of coffee, and I just want to talk to you about what are you doing now and how did you get there? Because you want to tell your story. Everybody likes to tell their story. And then at the end of that, if I just say, wow, that was so interesting. I'm thinking of doing something like this. do you have anybody else you think I should talk to? And you'll say, oh yeah, my friend is doing that. And what we find is that when you're just at, like, I'm a new person in Bangkok, I'm looking for directions. How do I get to this temple? How do I get to this restaurant? Everybody will help me.
Right.
People in Bangkok are very friendly.
Yeah.
So if I'm just asking for directions, I'm not taking anything away from you. And in fact, I'm giving you the opportunity to be generous. It works.
Yeah.
90% of the time works. Sometimes people, like, they're too busy. I say, hey, I'm lost. Can I help you? And they just walk by.
Yeah.
That's fine. They were a busy person.
Yeah.
But somebody else will. I was standing at a street corner looking at my phone. I clearly was lost. I didn't even know what to ask. And somebody came over and said, are you lost? I said, yes. And they said, can I help you? I didn't even have to ask.
Yeah.
They came to help me. They saw that I was, disoriented. So I find people in Bangkok particularly are very friendly. I think it's part of the culture to be helpful.
Yeah. I think just reframe that, because a lot of people have a lot of difficulty asking for help or even talking to people to begin with. Just reframe it, not asking for help, but making connection probably.
Yeah, making connections.
Making friends,
and,
yeah.
I mean, here's the reframe I always use with my students. It literally is like asking for directions. Have you ever, like on my students, I say, have you ever been walking down the street at Stanford and someone comes up and they say, hey, I'm trying to find Hoover Tower. I'm trying to find the law school. Can you help me? And you say, sure, the law schools, you just go down this road and you turn left and you'll see the big tall building, that's the thing. I say, and have you done that? And they all raise their hand, yes, I've done that. I said, how did you feel? Oh, I felt pretty good. I helped this person find the law school. Okay. Did they take something from you? No. Did they offer to pay you? No. So why did you do it? Well, because it's the right thing to do. It's what people do. You help people when they're lost. And I said, okay. So it's the same thing. I'm looking for a new job, or I'm looking for something, and I'm not sure what I'm looking for yet, but I think I know it's got something to do with, podcasting, or something to do with, video recording. So I find somebody who's doing it. I say, hey, can you give me some directions? I'm lost. I've never done video recording before. And they'll say, yeah, go to this website, this website, this website. They're really good. Or talk to this guy. He's a fantastic instructor. And the person who's giving the directions doesn't feel like you asked for anything that was inappropriate, right? And when you leave on your new path, they feel good because they helped you. So yeah, the reframe is you're looking for connections, you're looking for a story, and you're looking for directions. And everybody is happy when they can give you directions and point you in, like, it's a little piece of knowledge I have that you don't have. This is how you find the law school. This is how you find, oh, you don't want to go to that restaurant. That restaurant's better.
Yeah, like you said before, giving them a chance to be generous.
Yeah, exactly.
To be kind to the fellow human.
And look, I'm mostly an introvert. I'm a pretty shy guy. When I have to, teach or something, I can do that. But if I'm by myself, just walking down the street, I'm pretty shy. So it's hard for me, too, to say, I guess I'm lost, I better ask somebody. But 100% of the time, when I ask somebody, I get help.
And you feel good afterward, like, it's a good thing I talked to that guy.
Yeah, like we're all human beings. And he told me, like, don't go to that restaurant, go to that restaurant. And that restaurant was great.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people have read your book, but still their life haven't changed in any way. And I think sometimes it's because they just read it and they don't put themselves out there or put their knowledge or information from the book into action.
Right.
Yeah. I think maybe it's just the first step that they need to take, right?
It is. And here's the thing. I always say, it's about learning a new mindset, but start with the mindset of curiosity. Designers are curious people. When some normal people are going down the street and they see something they've never seen before, they go, oh, what's that? And when a designer's walking down the street and they see something they've never seen before, they go, oh, what's that? And then they go pick it up.
Right.
And then maybe it bites them or something. I don't know. But I mean, they're just curious, right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason I say start with curiosity is two things. I will guarantee you when you were 5 years old, you were curious. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson now and a 4-week-old granddaughter. But my 2.5-year-old grandson, when you're 2, you just say, why?
Yeah, the why stage.
Why do you do this? Why do you do this? He just wants to know everything, right? He's deeply curious. You were that kid too, except then you went to school and they told you not to ask questions. And then you went to, a bigger school and they were like, only get the right answers or you're bad. And so you learn to suppress your curiosity. But it's in there. So if you can start with curiosity and just ask a few questions in the world, that energy starts to build and it gives you a little more confidence. And so follow your Dave says, take your curiosity for a walk in the world.
Wow. Right.
And that will get you started. And then people will start telling you stories. Okay, now you get something to work with. So get curious, talk to people, and then try stuff. This is our little circle. Try stuff, which is the prototyping stage, and then tell your own story. And people will say, "Oh, I want who you should talk to," and then I'll get you more curious, which will get you talking to more people, trying more stuff, telling your story. So get curious, talk to people, try stuff, tell your story. It's a virtuous cycle, and once it gets going, it's like a flywheel, except it keeps going up and up and up and up, and pretty soon, you'll wake up one day going, "I think I'm thinking like a designer because I'm not waiting for data. I'm finding data in the world, and I'm not just sitting trying to think of the solution. I'm talking to people, and I'm actually prototyping little solutions to see what works. And I have a better sense of myself now, so I know when I'm on the right track. And that's the transformation that occurs. And even in the one-day workshop, people get to the place where they say, I think I'm not stuck anymore. And then the more and more they practice, the more and more they get into a state of mind where curiosity is natural again, which is great, right?
Yeah. So as a life designer yourself, how good of a job do you think you have done designing your life, and how happy or satisfied are you?
Well, I'm very, very privileged to have had great parents who sent me, were willing to pay for a very good education. And, I worked hard and I, worked hard on my jobs and stuff, but, I started with, pretty good privilege. Not everybody gets that. And I've always moved towards the thing I was the most curious about. Before we started writing the books and stuff, and before we started teaching class, actually, I think I was just doing all this stuff, but I hadn't really named it. I knew I was curious. I always liked my jobs. I never had a bad job, but I always found a good one. I didn't, nobody just gave it to me. I found a good one. So now at this point in my life, so my life design, I just redesigned my life so that I could be 6 months traveling all over Asia, talking about this, and 6 months teaching, because teaching is so important to me. I love seeing my students transform as designers and as people. So I've just gone through a big life design, and this is the year of prototyping it. And I got to say, it's working great. And part of it is because I know what I need to do to be happy in my life. And again, like I said, this is all about, in my maker mix, this is all about impact and expression. Because when we design new programs, that's very creative. And when I can deliver the programs and see people change, I see the impact. Right there in the room, I see the impact. I see people who were kind of depressed and felt hopeless coming in, walking out, standing up tall and feeling good. And so, yeah, I'd have to say my life design is working out pretty good. And, I have to acknowledge that lots and lots of people helped me. My professors helped me learn design. My family supported me, everything I've done in my career. My wife has been amazing. My kids are all good. I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing I've done will end up being my 3 children and their happy lives. And that makes me very, very happy. And now my grandchildren. But hopefully the life design stuff will have a positive impact as well.
It's been a great conversation. And I've got one last question to ask you. I'm curious, is there anything else you're curious about and wanted to try outside of the design world?
Well, when I was, 4 or 5 or 6, I was always drawing and painting and drawing and drawing and drawing, and I've always wanted to, and I've always had a kind of an artistic side to me. So my next life, my truly redesigned life, is to be an artist. So I have a studio now, just about 4 blocks from my house. I'm a painter, and I've been studying, I'm practicing and painting and studying. And so when I have part of my redesign, I have 6 months off, is to be able to really invest in that part of me. Design is always about solving a problem. To me, art is different. It's about asking a good question. What like sometimes I stand in front of a big canvas, white canvas, I got my paints, I'm thinking, well, the world doesn't really need another painting. We've got plenty of paintings. Yeah. So what am I doing with this? What's the question? And sometimes I stand there for a long time before I find a way to start. And sometimes it just starts, and it's magic. So for me, the curiosity is, it's never too late to start. Can I shift my mindsets now completely into being an artist? Because I've always liked 2 subjects, art and physics. When I first went to Stanford, I thought I would be a physics major, but the math was too difficult, and I wasn't that good at it. But I like to listen to the physicists, and I know all about the new physics, because I think physics asks the one big question, like, why is there anything? Why is there even matter or universe or anything, right? And art is the other subject that asks the really big question of what is beauty? What is the human experience, the visual and physical experience of beauty and meaning and truth. And so I really want to study art for the rest of my life. That's my next thing.
Mr. Bill Burnett, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoy our conversation.
Well, thank you. You had great questions, and I've really enjoyed it too.
Thank you.
Okay.
คว้าโอกาสล่าอนาคตล้วงอินไซต์ The Standard Economic Forum 2023 Future Ready Thailand เศรษฐกิจไทยไล่ล่าอนาคตรวมผู้นำระดับโลกและไทยกว่า 40 คนไว้ในงานเดียวพบกับเศรษฐาทวีสินบรรทุลล่ำซำเศรษฐพุทธสุทธิวาฒนรพุทธสุรเกียรติเสถียรไทยสุประชัยเจียรวนนท์สุภวุฒิสายเชื้อกอบศักดิ์ภูตระกูลพยงศรีวณิชคัตยาอินทรวิชัยสมโพธิ์อาหุไนยธนาธรจึงรุ่งเรืองกิจฟาบริซิโอซาโคเน่พบกันวันที่ 23-25 พฤศจิกายน 2566 จัด 3 วันเต็มณศูนย์การประชุมแห่งชาติเศรษฐกิจซื้อบัตร Early Bird ราคา 2,500 บาทได้แล้ววันนี้ถึง 31 ตุลาคมเท่านั้น